The relationship between the US and Israel is on tenterhooks. Overnight, Joe Biden warning Benjamin Netanyahu that US support hinges on the protection of civilians and aid workers in Gaza. And so it should. What happened last week to the World Central Kitchen operators was horrific. So too the loss of every single civilian life so far in this conflict. But this is war. Not everything will happen perfectly or as planned. This accident by the IDF that resulted in the loss of life of an Australian volunteer was just that, a tragic mistake. One that must be investigated thoroughly and appropriate action taken, absolutely. Israel itself has acknowledged this and taken ownership. The Australian Prime Minister this week.
I conveyed to Prime Minister Netanyahu in very clear terms that Australians were outraged by this death, by this tragedy of this fine Australian.
And again, of course, Australians should and rightly are outraged by what occurred. But can we please think very carefully about where that outrage is directed? Israel has a responsibility to fight this war by the rules. As my old dad used to say, we stand for the rules of war or we stand for nothing. But mistakes will happen. That is the nature of war. Countries must be accountable for them, but when they occur, and they will, we cannot muddy the waters of which side is good and which is evil. The ultimate responsibility for every single casualty since October 7 is Hamas, including the Australian. Our Prime Minister should be making that very clear at every opportunity as well, if not more so. So too his US counterpart. Where is the pressure being heaped on Hamas and really, let's be frank, Iran? And where is the same anger and outrage over the Australian ADF member injured over the weekend whilst patrolling the southern Lebanese border as part of a UN peacekeeping force? He and 3 others were wounded. The unarmed crew doing a routine check, all warring parties had been informed prior. Clashes have intensified over the past weeks, but the situation has been extremely dangerous there since October. Israel says it wasn't involved. And as we've seen in recent days, they're owning it. Those on the ground believe Hezbollah was responsible because of the nature of the attack. There were allegedly claymores found at the site, attached to tripwires. Claymores are a type of mine that shoots metal balls out. So where is the condemnation of the terrorists? The anger and outrage at Hezbollah? Again, war is dangerous and battlegrounds are horrific places. We all know this. But there's another question I have for those in power here. And that's, why do we have our people embedded with the United Nations, unarmed, in a war zone, when the UN hasn't really covered itself in glory during this conflict? Or, well before, to be honest. Maybe we as a country need to rethink this off the back of the UNRWA revelations. Remember, Hamas members had infiltrated that organisation run under the UN umbrella. Our ADF member on the ground was nearly blown to smithereens as part of the UN convoy. Unarmed, zero ability to defend himself or others, against attack from an enemy who clearly doesn't respect the laws or have any morals or ethics to speak of. Near misses had allegedly been reported to defence since October by those in that group on the ground. It was bound to happen. So again, I sound like a broken record, but where is the Albanese government's public outrage and anger at Hezbollah, at Hamas, at Iran? Let's hold everyone in this war to account, just as we should, but not for a second lose sight of the fact that there is a very clear line between good and evil, as much as those who seek to harm us try and convince us it's blurred.